Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Attic new release roundup. If you're new here, welcome. What we do is we kind of go back and forth and we talk about the latest home video releases. Some are good, some are bad, but you know what? We both have a really fun time talking about it and breaking it all down for y'all. And with that, I'm going to kick this party off with something that it's kind of wild that I've never seen before. But we're going to get into it, and that is Footloose. It's the was it 40th anniversary. That can't be right because that feels like I'm really old. Um, but it's interesting. So I've like I said, I've never seen this before. So this is the inside. This does have a digital code, but mine's not in there. But if you order it, you will have a digital code. But anyways, Footloose. It's very 80s. Like this is like one of the most 80s movies that ever 80s. Like it's kind of a monument to that decade. I I think the premise is interesting. I love this cast is amazing. I mean Kevin Bacon, yes, great. But John Lithgow, Diane Wiest, mwah, mwah, so good. And I think they're both incredibly excellent in this. I think their chemistry together is believable. Um, I think it's kind of fun to see a young, oh gosh, it's Sean Penn's brother, um,
Chris?
Chris Penn. Yeah. It was cool seeing him in this. It's very dated in some things. There is some casual homophobia slash slurs. I also kind of think that it's framed in a way where only like the douchey guys are doing it. So it's something, I guess. Like Kevin Bacon's girlfriend jumping onto the train tracks um, was insane. I'm like, you need to get her some help or like for somebody to talk to her. Like, I don't know. It's not like quirky. It's like, that's a little scary, but you know, it is what it is. I would say I really enjoyed it overall. My only sort of, and this might be a little bit of a nitpick, but like I don't feel I'm trying to decide if I feel like John Lithgow's character, his sort of 180 felt justified or it felt really well set up in the narrative. Like I know we do get layers with that character, and I really appreciate that. Like I like that his character is not just one dimensional like boogeyman, right? Like they give him some reasonings, they give him some like he is kind of questioning his core values. I mean, especially when he like comes to blows with his own daughter. I think like that I would say is maybe a little bit of a stepping stone towards him like going a little bit more inward in his character, but I don't think that ruined it for me. I still think it was a really good time. I mean, of course, the soundtrack is really legendary. Was it like the Kenny Loggins song? Like Footloose.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's fun. Kevin Bacon's great in this. I believe all these features are just ported over from previous releases. I've never owned this one before. Usually it will indicate if there's something new to this release, but if you're like me and you've never owned it, that's cool. Like you have everything there. I was trying to think about how I felt with this transfer. There are moments that look a little bit maybe muted a little bit, or not really a lot of like blurring or like, of course, like artifacts or anything, but it just felt a little off at times. I know with Paramount, it's been a little hit or miss. I don't think this is awful by any means. I think it looks overall really nice, but I definitely was like, there's room for improvement here. It's not as crisp and as clean as I think it could have been. But yeah, I know it's again Paramount's a little bit iffy with some of their releases. I think just the other week you were talking about that Friday the 13th and some other maybe Fatal Attraction also wasn't really great. I know that Rosemary's Baby was kind of disappointing. It's not awful, but I do feel like I try to. I mean, we both try to like give it to y'all like straight, and this is just there's room for improvement. It's not the best, but it's overall I think it's good looking.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a good decade plus since I first watched this movie. My wife showed it to me, and I'm interested to revisit it now that I'm a little bit older. I was still an adult whenever I watched it, but just to see how it holds up and just see how this transfer is from Paramount, because like you said, they're a little shaky at points. But it's one I've been waiting for a 4K release before I revisit it, because I knew it had to be on the horizon. I just didn't know when, but I guess it makes sense for its 40th anniversary that it's finally here.
I loved his like dance of rebellion. He's just like he's got so many feelings and he's got to dance them out. And I'm like, that is the 80th things that like I mean, oh my god, like it was just missing somebody in like a Reagan mask to make it more like 80s. But yeah, it's a tough.
Yeah, I mean, dancing your feelings out, I feel that. I get that. So sometimes you just gotta cut loose, foot loose. I am staying in the 80s, and I have a fantastic slate this week. I am so excited about all these things. And last year, one of my favorite new labels emerged at the beginning of the year. That was Radiance Films. Now we have a new contender at the beginning of this year who just started up. It is a new sub label of Vinegar Syndrome called Cinematography, and this is their first release of Little Darlings from 1980, which is notoriously like a film that's had horrible music rights issues, that has kept it away from physical media for quite a while, like at least since the DVD era. And many people thought, like, will this ever get like a HD release? And they swooped in. Paramount finally cleared all the music, and now it's finally coming out with this fantastic release. And there's so much I want to show you. This, like I said, this is through this sub-label from Vinegar Syndrome. So Cinematography is basically the brainchild of one of the people over there, Justin LaLiberty. And he is like us. He is a collector, and he's very in tune with what we want from like a loaded collector's edition release. And I follow him on Twitter and also Letterboxd. If you don't follow him on Letterboxd, he posts like the best list. That's just a detour. But I saw how much care he talked about putting into this packaging. So I want to take time to just show off all of this cool stuff. So first, it comes with this removable J card here. So that's this. And so here's the front, side, and then here's the back cover art. And so the side here has this little ribbon that you can pull out to remove the packaging. And so that's embossed on the front with this little media book packaging here. And it does come with this booklet that's kind of embedded in here with essays and all that. And then there's 2 discs here. And I saw him talking about this on Twitter, but like he made sure that like he used the type of packaging where the disc aren't going to like come loose in the middle, like whenever it's shipped or anything. So these are secure, not too secure where you're going to break the disc whenever they're released, but like this is impeccable packaging. And I just whenever someone puts this much care into a release, I want to make sure that it is highlighted because I think it's very cool. And so this is a 4K release, and it is a a tale of it's a summer camp tale of like set from like a girl's point of view. It's all these girls coming together at summer camp, and whenever they're there, everyone's kind of acting like they like have a lot of like sexual experience and they're mature and everything. And there's these two girls that admit that they are still virgins, so it becomes kind of like a plot that you've seen in a lot of boys movies where they make a contest between the two girls. Whoever loses their virginity first wins. And so it's kind of these two girls going on kind of parallel experiences, trying to like lose their virginity, but also learn about themselves and learn about love and like growing up and all this stuff. So it's like all that thematic material that I really love. But what I really like about this is there's a lot of the typical like 70s and 80s comedic like camp movies where you're like some silly things happen or like just like hijinks at like a lake and stuff like that. But then there's also it takes a turn similar to like how whenever I talked about it, I really love Last American Virgin, where there's also some really kind of heavier dramatic stuff happening and like just that really makes you emotional. So the balance of the like the really effective humor with this emotional underpinning where these girls are growing up and they are making mistakes, but they're also learning from them and learning that maybe they don't have to keep up with everyone else, or maybe everyone is not even being truthful about how experienced they are. It's really impactful, just like this journey that they go on. And all the actresses are really great. This has Tatum O'Neal, who was in Paper Moon. That was her big breakout. There's a young Cynthia Nixon for all you Sex and the City fans. And the other girl who's the main lead, that's Christy McNichol from Two Moon Junction. She's really great too. And like she has a thing with also a young Matt Dillon. So she's kind of more like the tough girl and stuff with like a soft interior, which you gotta love that. But this is just a really, really good movie. And the fact that it was missing in action from like Blu-ray or now 4K to this point was a travesty. And I'm so glad that this music clearances finally got cleared up and that this new label, they gave it a lavish release. So this is a 4K restoration from the original camera negative. It looks fantastic. No lingering like print damage or anything like that. All the colors are really nice. It has HDR, no Dolby Vision, but the HDR looks very nice. It has really rich natural colors. All the grain is very consistent and stuff. I've talked about this in the past for like certain labels like Aero Video and stuff, but this was encoded by Fidelity in Motion. And for those in the know that's a very good sign because they are always really good with the compression and encoding and stuff. So it looks really good. It's just a fantastic release all around. And there's also some great new special features. There's a new commentary track from the director, and then there's an additional commentary track from a film historian, so you get both perspectives. There's also another additional 55-minute interview with the director, which is very informative, and you learn a lot about how like the studio process and how they wanted one thing and he kind of thought it was another, and kind of how those two things kind of ended up, which also resulted in a television cut, which the full television cut is not included in this, but there's a good amount of footage from the television cut included in here, and also an additional featurette of the director talking about this footage that was included without his knowledge, but just hearing his perspective on like why this footage was initially cut and what he thinks about it. I think that was very valuable. This footage is in HD, but is also kind of a rough, unfinished version where you can kind of see like the timestamps at the top, but it is in clear HD. It just doesn't maybe have like correct the finished color timing. There's also another 20-minute essay, I believe that's from Sam Deegan. Yes, and we love Sam Deegan around here. She's one of our people that we look for in like special features where we're like, okay, we know that's going to be quality. So hearing her perspective on like a young girl like coming of age film, it's fantastic. That's about 20 minutes long. It's a fantastic release. It's a long awaited release. And they also have, there's a little bit of tease. I've heard some rumors that they have some more like long anticipated titles that have been tied up in music clearance hell. So hopefully that materializes later in the year. But so far they're off to a good start. And spoiler alert, my next release is their second release. So I'm excited to get into that too. But Little Darlings in 4K, it's fantastic. This This edition is limited to 8,000 initially, and I got 579. But there will be, if you don't want all this lavish, spectacular packaging, there will be a standard edition later, probably once this sells out. But I love packaging so much. I'm a packaging whore, so I would recommend, if you want it, make sure to get it before it sells out, because this is top tier collector minded release. It's fantastic.
Yes, I know. I've seen you on the street corner trying to make some
Mhm.
money for those slipcovers, for that packaging. It's no. Listen, no shame in your game.
Yeah.
But no, that sounds amazing, and I definitely like I put that right on my watch list. So yeah, and you know what's funny is I've heard about that movie a lot. I've never seen it actually. So I hear such great things, so I'm really excited. Another movie that has always been on my kind of must watch list, and I've just never got around to it, is my next title, The Thomas Crown Affair.
Mhm.
And slipcover, and no interior artwork, just disc. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. I feel very two ways about this. On the one hand, I think it is really amazing. Like the opening heist scene, how like tight and constructed that is. Like even just kind of like them getting all the guys ready and like using the multi-screen sort of a la 24, but I mean, of course, decades before that.
Yeah.
And there was this one shot that just kind of blew my mind when he like rolls that gas canister, and it almost like you get that POV shot of like you're
Mhm.
like down there rolling with it. Like that's not easy to do. Like that's kind of mind blowing. Some of these like shots that they pulled off. Steve McQueen is amazing. He, I don't know, he just has that it factor, right? Like he has that charm where you're like, yeah, this is clearly a movie star. Like he is amazing. And then Faye Dunaway is great. It's always interesting seeing her in things that isn't Mummy Dearest. But yeah, I think she's a good actor. Oh, it was also fun seeing Yaphet Kotto in this for like a second.
Mhm.
It's too bad that he wasn't in it more. But yeah, and then like this cat and mouse game was kind of interesting. I also think it's interesting how I'm trying to think if this is a spoiler or not. Maybe I won't mention it, but how Faye Dunaway's character is sort of a little bit more overt than covert is maybe a good way of saying that, but without spoiling it. But
Mhm.
there's just scenes that I think are really weird and jarring, and they don't really mix well with the film. So I watched this with my husband because he really wanted to see this also, and I think we counted like three or four dune buggy scenes, and I'm like, why? There is a scene of him, just Steve McQueen's character, just riding it around in his airplane, and I'm like, okay, why? Like we can just establish that he can do that without a lengthy scene of that. I don't know. It's just like things like that to kind of hold it back. And then I think the ending, it just is not satisfying. We both kind of just looked at each other and was like, okay, like, is that it?
Mhm.
It's weird because you have some really great stuff that kind of buck up against just shaggy plotting, scenes that really don't need to be in there. It's kind of a shame because there is a really good movie in there. It's just muddled. And again, the cinematography in this is like next level good. Like it's mind blowing. There's shots that seem easy, but like when you really stop to think about like how they did it, even some like pretty elaborate tracking shots, like stuff like that's not easy to do, but you know, it looks really good. Now, as far as how this particular release looks, I think it looks nice. There definitely is some moments where you can kind of see a lot of some artifacts, a little bit of debris. It's by no means like a 4K kind of release, but you know, a lot of this is like exteriors, and then that looks really good. That looks really crisp and pops a lot. Colors are generally really good. Maybe a little bit in inconsistency with the color grading as well. room for improvement, but I think it looked good overall. I love the wealth of features. Like that's really awesome. You definitely get bang for your buck with this release, especially just having this. I'm kind of surprised that this didn't, because I know people like this movie a lot, or it's supposed to be like a classic. So it's kind of surprised this didn't get a 4K release. I wonder if the material wasn't quite there to, even do like a 2K or 4K, Blu-ray master. So I don't know. Maybe if it sells really well, they might invest in maybe upgrading the picture a little bit. But overall, I think it's a nice release. The movie is a little for me. Have you seen this one yet?
Yeah, I watched it a couple days ago. I mostly enjoyed it. I did think the ending took me by surprise because just like seeing how their dynamic developed and then just where it left off, I was like, oh, but I guess it kind of makes sense. But knowing the nature of the character, no spoilers. But I overall I liked it. I think it's more of a vibe, like interesting, like the experience is enjoyable, even if there's like some aspects I didn't completely gel with or think worked completely. But overall, I think I enjoyed it. If you saw me kind of looking down whenever you were talking at first, I was wanting to confirm because this is a reissue of the 2018 disc. I wanted to see if it was a new encode or anything like that because people who watch us regularly know that Kino's been doing that a lot recently, just been reissuing, sometimes giving new encodes and special features and stuff, and then like a slip cover. This is a case where this is the exact same disc as the 2018 release, so no new encode, no new special features. It's just the disc with a new slip cover and just it's back in print, so
Oh,
people
nice.
can pick it up. And I'd never owned it previously, so that's good for me that it's back in print. But if you had the old release, unless you just really want the slipcover, which is a nice slipcover,
Yeah.
I don't think you really need to upgrade for that. I just wanted to confirm for our
Oh yeah.
viewers.
And that's great information. Like if you don't, again, just it's just the extra slipcover. If you got it, you're good. You don't need to double dip necessarily. But again, if you're like us and never owned this, I think it's a fun movie. It is a vibe. I do absolutely love that they like kidnap a child.
Oh yeah.
But no, and let me clarify that. I don't love that they kidnapped a child, but I love that it was like the good guy. I love that it was like the quote unquote good guys that did it, in order to sort of like, I guess, in effect, blackmail or kind of entrap this criminal, which like is so illegal. Like you could never use any of that. Like it's entrapment. You also like kidnapped his kid. Like it's wild. It is wild. There's that.
Yeah, this is also from the recently late Norman Jewison, who's done like In the Heat of the Night and just so many films that we've talked about on this program. So I was glad that even though we lost him recently, that I was able to finally watch this one just to get another notch off his filmography because he's such a great director and he was so good at what he did. So that visual style that you're talking about, I think, is a largely
Yeah.
attributed to his ambition. So I think that's really cool. And unfortunately, prescient timing too with his passing, but Kino couldn't have known. My next title is the second release from cinematography. The third one will be announced at the beginning of March, and I'm really excited about that. But the second one is Red Rock West with Nicolas Cage. So this is a Blu-ray release. I'll show off the packaging like I did the first. So yes, removable J card here. The front, and then just like a nice moody back cover, and then like the other one, this little thread to pull this out. Which I'm a simple man. I just enjoy just that process and just like look, it's like magic. You're just pulling stuff out. So here is the front here. So anyone who's picked up like some of the A24 exclusive, this kind of seems really similar in packaging, except just not as tall. Get essays and stuff in here, and then this is a single Blu-ray release here. So this is a really cool movie. I love Nicolas Cage. There's a reason he was one of my most watched actors of last year, and so far, based on what I watched 2 Nicolas Cage movies this week alone, so he'll probably be pretty near to the top again this year. But he's such a dynamic actor, and this is a fun movie. It's your typical crime neo noir western ish movie. Kind of like a vibe of like a Hot Spot, which is a movie I really like, directed by Dennis Hopper. And then Dennis Hopper is in this movie as well, along with a lot of other really good performers. But Nicolas Cage is the classic trope of he's a man who finds himself drifting into town, and he kind of gets himself mixed up in this situation where he is mistaken for a hitman, and he is hired to take out this guy's wife. But since he is not a professional hitman, he's not wanting to carry it out, and she actually hires him for more money to take out her husband, but then gets mixed up in like a situation where he is accused for a crime that he didn't even commit, not even separate from this crime. And it's just all kind of like snowballs into like double crosses and like femme fatales, and like the original hitman, who is Dennis Hopper, does eventually come into town, and like that dynamic of like the real hitman's here, and Nicolas Cage is just trying to figure out how to get out of this without being in jail, without ending up dead, everything. And it's a really nicely paced, like interconnected story. It's just a little over 90 minutes, so there's not a lot of fat on this, which I really appreciate. It's a really swift watch, really a good camera work, some really nice moody kind of neo-noir atmosphere. This does take place in more of like a westernish climate, like a drier climate, and those expanses always provide like a rich opportunity just on a visual level to just really soak that in, and the camera really takes advantage of that. There are some of the tropes of the genre, but it does really do a nice job of, if they're going to go with some of the tropes, they like do the best version of it, and they also subvert some things as well. And the performances are really good. Nicolas Cage, like I said, I'm a big fan, and he's not overly doing it in this one. He's like pretty much dialed into where he needs to be, and it just works out very well. And a great ensemble of like character actors, and so there's a lot of good people in here. Some may ask, and a lot of people have asked online, why was this not given a 4K release? And the explanation from the company is that this is a 4K restoration from the 35 millimeter interpositive. The original camera negative has not been able to be located. Who knows if it still exists? And based on this 4K restoration, which does look fantastic, it was judged that the making this a proper 4K release would have been like kind of a negligible improvement. And I guess if the original camera negative is ever discovered, maybe that will change in the future. But for now, this is a Blu-ray release of a film that had, like Little Darlings, has been highly requested, missing in action on Blu-ray in North America. And it does look really fantastic. And I know this was released overseas, so some people who are like really hardcore about this may have imported that. But that was an older transfer. This is a new 4K restoration. It looks really great. Even if it's from a 35 millimeter interpositive, we know that if it's a really good label, like Warner Archive sometimes has to deal with some of these elements because of source issues, it can trick you into like believing that it was an original camera negative. And that's kind of what I was feeling here. It looks so good that I would probably not have noticed that it wasn't an original camera negative. It's really nice, stable film grain, really rich colors. There's a lot of dark moments in here, and I did not notice any black crush or anything like that. It's just a really well done Blu-ray, which as long as it's at least Blu-ray level for me, like I'm happy if that looks as good as it can at the moment. I know I give flack to DVD, but as long as we're getting Blu-ray releases, I'm pretty happy with stuff. So looks good, sounds good, and also packed with special features. This comes with a commentary track, a couple of interviews with like the director and the screenwriter, who I believe are brothers. Those range from about 25 to 17 minutes in length, I believe. Another archival interview, and some visual essays, a couple of like video essays on like specific facets of this movie, and like some trailers and stuff. So overall, a really well-rounded release that's just fantastic. So Red Rock West, if you're a Nicolas Cage fan or kind of a neo-Western film noirish fan, this was a good one. It was fun. I watched it earlier today, and it's a fun time. And I watched my wife, who's a big Nicolas Cage fan, and she had fun time. So recommended by both of us.
Nice. Can you do a Nicolas Cage impersonation?
Gotta take my face off.
Really want a peach.
I could eat a peach for hours. That's the one I should have went with.
That is so creepy. I do that. I will randomly do that to my husband and he hates it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so my next title is I have um so overall I have three 4K titles. This is my second one, and this is Scarlet Street. And I have to say, I was like really, really excited to hear that this was getting a 4K re-release. Here's the back. Um, and no no double-sided art, but here are the discs. So as you can see, there is a Blu-ray with this as well if you're not 4K capable yet. Pick it up. Anyways, so I had to say, I've seen this movie many times, so it was really fun to kind of revisit this one. It is, when you think of like really bleak film noirs, I mean, Double Indemnity is certainly is very nihilistic, but I don't know. This one might be a little bit more bleak. It feels almost like Tennessee Williams level of like you just have these characters that are all kind of just desperate and sad, and they're just clawing their way upwards to just get out of their situation, and just nobody is content. Everybody's trying to level up, but it's always just in order to get up, you have to just literally and figuratively just decimate your, people in your way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean, I think like career best for Edward G. Robinson. Um, it's kind of weird seeing him in like this, like it looks kind of like a bad dye job, but he's supposed to be made much like to look much older. Um, Joan Bennett is really great as this sort of like femme fatale. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right, Dan. Is it Durrani
I
or
think so. I think that's what they usually say on commentary tracks, if I'm not
okay?
mistaken.
Like I love like he is in tons of film noirs. I couldn't even begin to list how many, but I have to say I think this might be his scummiest. Like he
Yeah.
absolutely is fucking scum in this. Like he almost sort of inadvertently sets himself up in the latter half of the movie in ways that are just so grotesque in a way. And I'm just being very vague on purpose because I don't want to spoil it because I think this is a good movie. I love the commentary tracks. They are fantastic. This is also a re-release, right? This was previously, I believe.
Well, it's an upgrade. It's the
Yeah,
4K
like
aspect of this
the
is good.
4K is
Yeah.
new, yeah. But yeah, I think overall it looks really nice. Is it completely pristine? No, there is a little bit of like scratches and artifacts, but no, it's not anything that kind of detracts from the overall release and how it looks. I think the black and white contrast is really nice. Black levels are very well done. I mean, this it's a film noir. It's very like dark and moody. So, you want that that black levels to be really well handled. And I love this movie, and I think the ending is just so beautifully bittersweet. And yeah, it's a shame that I can't talk more in depth because I don't want to spoil it. There are a few interesting twists. One thing I will say that I did not like, it kind of doesn't ruin the movie for me, but it holds it back for me in a way, is like the subplot with Edward G. Robinson's character's wife's husband kind of comes back in the picture, and it doesn't feel set up well, and it seems a little hokey pokey, especially for like Fritz Lang. It's annoying, but I don't feel like it overall. I like the film. There's some interesting things going on. I like that it's in the backdrop of the art scene, which I think is really fascinating, especially for this time period in the 45. So pretty good. Great release. I think if you like noirs and you haven't seen it, I would certainly say check it out.
Yeah, this was my first time watch of it earlier this week as well, and I thought it was great. But I'm a huge Edward G. Robinson fan. I say this occasionally, but like with getting into the world of like boutique physical media and stuff, it's opened like my eyes to so many stars that I now love, and Edward G.
Hmm.
Robinson is like high among them. Just because like I would have seen him in like Double Indemnity and stuff, but just seeing him have starring roles and stuff, these like in different things, he's one of my favorite like old Hollywood actors. He is fantastic, and he's really good in this movie.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. My next title is one I was so stoked about. I have been requesting this from Warner Archive for years, and they did not end up releasing it. They licensed it out, but I'm finally getting it, so I'm happy. And that is Shout Studios' release of Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny. Uh, So a few months ago, I kind of expressed my excitement over Little Nicky coming to Blu-ray from Shout, which yielded me a amazing shirt from you that you gave me, which I will show off in a future video Attic. So stay tuned to make sure you're subscribed. But so this is my second kind of devil themed comedy that I got crossed off the list because I've been wanting this on Blu-ray basically since the year it dropped, which is like 2007. It finally came out, or 2008 on DVD. And is it a great movie? No, but if you're a Tenacious D fan, you're gonna love it. And it's just like it's one of those movies I pretty much haven't seen since it was released back then. But just watching it, I remembered so much about it. It also helped that I had the soundtrack, which would occasionally like come up on shuffle. So whenever there some songs would be playing, I'm like, oh yeah, I know this song. Like, and yeah, the songs they're great. It's Jack Black and Kyle Gass just like doing like an absurd dramatization of their like formation as a band, and then like getting together and eventually going on this epic quest for the titular pick of destiny that's made from like the devil's tooth that they have to like go on this journey to try to get it so they can become the best rock band in the world. It's ridiculous. There's a lot of puerile humor. There's like a lot of dick jokes and stuff and fart jokes, but there's also just a lot of really good gags that I think are really funny. And there are some like smarter dumb jokes, I guess, that really make me laugh. There's just a lot of things that just work for me. There's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in this. So there is that. So if you're not a Tenacious D fan, which I was lucky enough to see them live once at the Ryman Auditorium, which is our local venue. And it was so much fun. So that's all wrapped up in this for me. But overall, I still think it's a really fun, just like comedy. And I don't get as many like good studio comedies these days. I know that a lot ends up on streaming, but there's something about a studio comedy that there's just something in my soul that craves it. And this kind of touches on that. And I love Jack Black and just seeing his journey from then to now and all of it. It's fun. There's so many cameos in this that I like would have forgotten. I won't spoil all of them, but just seeing people as random as like Amy Poehler showing up and like Tim Robbins and so many more. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. But I was like, I had no idea these people were in here, but then they show up and it's a lot of fun. And how was this after waiting so many years to get to it? It looks really good. It's not noted as being from a 2K or 4K restoration. I think this is probably one that Warner slash NPI restored probably or remastered before they licensed it to Shout. So maybe they weren't allowed to call it like a new 4K or 2K restoration. But it looks really good, and it's like what you kind of expect or want from like a 2000s era comedy. It's very crisp, nice, bold colors, no noise. Everything's really nice and detailed and textured, and no like Black Crush or anything like that. And it also has a really robust soundtrack, which they're Tenacious D, they rock. So you want like a big, like boisterous, soundtrack. So it's DTS 5.1. It sounds amazing as it fills the room with the power of rock and stuff. So it's really cool. Really good presentation. I don't think there's no new special features from what I can tell. They did seem to port over all the previous DVD special features, and I think almost all of this special Best Buy bonus disc that I saw some people clamoring for before they announced the special features. I think they included all of those Best Buy exclusive DVD special features on here as well. So you do get a couple of commentary tracks, one from the guys and one from the director. You do get a making of featurette, several deleted / extended scenes, some music videos, some making of music videos, some internet promos. There's a lot of stuff on here. So Shout Studios, they made me very happy, and I'm sure there's a lot of Tenacious D fans watching that will also make them happy. So it's here. I'm so happy. Pick of Destiny. It's on Blu-ray. Very excited about it.
Nice. That's one that I have not seen in a while. And I remember the mushroom scene was really fun. Like where they were
Yeah.
like little like Sasquatches or something.
Yeah, he was Jack Black was Sasquatch's son.
Yeah, that was cute. And yeah, no, that seems like a really good time to revisit that. I mean, especially since like Jack Black is like so hot right now. I was so jealous. A friend of mine went to a premiere and met him, got his picture with him, said he's like one of the nicest guys. Like that's so cool. So my next this is my next and final 4K title, and that is Kindergarten Cop.
Dang!
Whoa, get to the chopper.
Not a Tuma.
It's not a Tuma. Put down a cookie. That's something else, but anyways, that's a good line. So no reversible art, but you slipcover aficionados will want to get this early, like we always say. So I know I've seen this movie when it first came out. I was pretty young. I was probably like the ages of these kids. So it was really interesting because I remembered next to nothing about this except for like some of the famous lines. Um, yeah, it's like basically watching it for the first time. Like I said, I know I'd seen it, but it's been a while. It's a good movie. It is weirdly horny. Um, it's weirdly I mean, it's a comedy, but it touches on some like really like very heavy topics like child abuse and stranger danger and like things like that. I think it works. I mean, I think Reitman is, especially in his prime, he was able to sort of make those tonal shifts feel pretty natural and not that jarring. Like I think instead of it sort of feeling out of place, it gave the movie a little bit more texture. It kind of made it feel a little bit more real. Uh, this movie has certain elements that have not aged well. Um, one of the parents was like, "A man teaching kindergarten? What?" And she goes as far as saying, "Oh, he's got to be gay." Like, there's no way. And then when they see him and he's this like big hulking guy, obviously they're all like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what?" I mean, the implication is they're expecting a very femininely coded gay person. I know it was of the time. It's 1990. I feel like we should have been maybe a little bit more progressive, but gender roles was still very much a thing. Oh, the other thing that I thought was uncomfortable was like one of the parents like went to I can't remember Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, and she's like, "I'm so worried. My son was playing with a doll, and I was like very upset." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry. He uses that to like lift up the little girl's skirts." And she's like, right. And she's like, "Oh, thank God." She's like, "I was worried that he was like, I get," and she didn't say it, but it was like, the relief was he wasn't effeminate. But it's okay that he was sort of like, I don't know. It was a wild time. Miko Hughes, is that how you say his name? The kid, this kid right here. He was in Pet
Oh,
Sematary,
yeah.
I think is how you say that. I got to meet him and he was so sweet. He was like such a nice guy. He has some really interesting, like he has a catchphrase that's interesting. I don't want to say it. Oh, and I love and I'll wrap up my thoughts with I love that there's a kid obsessed with death and I love it.
Yeah, we love a dark cloud.
Yeah, like he's just like everybody died. I think it's like his first line, and I'm like, yeah, he's like he's gonna be the future goth kid. I love it. Yeah, so it's a fun movie. It takes kind of a humdrum sort of plot, and I think it makes it really interesting. Carol Baker's in this. She's in another film that I'm talking about, and oh my God, I love her so much. She is fantastic. If you don't know who that is, please look her up. She's amazing. Baby Doll, I think, is my favorite movie that she's in. But yeah, it's and if you haven't seen that one, it's great. It's really perverse and weird, and I'm kind of surprised that it got away with as much as it did. But yeah, Kindergarten Cop, it's fun. How does the restoration look? I think really, really nicely. So this was a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter print, and like the colors really pop nicely. Again, I love seeing all that 90s like hair and fashion, and it's not a particularly visually great looking movie, but it is nice seeing it looking really crisp and clean. Sounds really good. We have two audio commentaries and a trailer. I didn't get a chance to do all the commentary tracks, but I'm looking forward to tucking into that soon. And yeah, it's a really fun release. If you're super nostalgic for for 90s comedies, if you like Arnie, and we do, we love the Arnster. It's it's an interesting time. It's fun. I think I would watch it again. But yeah, it's some of it's a little yikes.
Yeah, I haven't been able to rewatch that one yet, but that is a title along with Footloose. But just I had it sitting beside the couch. It had just come in, and my wife she walked by and she was just like, "Hell yeah!" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Kindergarten Cop." I was like, "All right." So I was like, "I guess you want to watch that with me?" She's like, "I'm always down." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like we'll watch it together." Because we watched it probably like a decade ago together, but she's up for it. And we just watched Jingle All the Way for Christmas, which is another bad good Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So we're in the pocket. We're ready
Am
for
I
it.
cooking?
Yeah.
So I know this isn't a Sundance title, but I want a podcast from y'all on this.
Hey, we always include one non-Sundance title, so maybe we will. I mean, we're both gonna watch it soon, so we'll put it on the list. My next title, I'm heading to. I have two from Arrow Video. My first one is Shaolin Plot, which is I believe it's a Fortune Star title. Um, that these last few years we've talked about a lot how especially Arrow Video and Shout and a bunch of these labels have been really tapping into kind of the Hong Kong martial arts market, and I will show off this elaborate packaging here. So the interior is there's the disc, and I will give you the reversible cover art. So this film is one of the last ones that Sammo Hung participated in before he started his own directorial a career as well as still starring. So that's other than that, it's not really a super well known martial arts film, but it's a good one. This has a fold out poster here, which I'm trying to unfold gingerly. So here is the one side. So pretty nice size here. And then there's the other here. And then there's also a booklet over here, which I will show off here. And you got essay and photo reproductions. Yeah, so turning to all the pages that aren't essays. I want to prove I'm not lying. Essays. um, so this one, the kind of bare plot of this one is there is a kind of a ruler who is kind of obsessed with gathering all these martial arts manuals. There's like five of them, and he has two or three, I believe. And he goes on, he kind of calls all these factions together to kind of meet up and bring all their styles together. And but a few of them refuse to attend. And then it ends up that there's a journey that begins where he wants to get these remaining manuals and bring his collection together. And it like sets down a path of like martial arts brutality and just your typical like martial arts. Like there's like a thin plot to just move along, like pretty impressive action scenes and some intrigue and minor character work, nothing too substantial, but there's some good performances, some really good martial arts in here, and just some several different disciplines within it because that's kind of inherent to the plot. That I think there's a lot of variety in the movement, which I really appreciate it. So if you're a Hong Kong martial arts film fan, this is a pretty solid one. Not like mind blowing, but it's good. I quite enjoyed it. And this comes from a 2K restoration of the film elements, and it looks really nice. It's very consistent. It's kind of on par with the other work that they've done from Fortune Star titles. This does have the original Mandarin and then also an English dub. Both are in LPCM 1.0 mono, so it looks really nice. There are two commentary tracks, both from film historians. But beyond that, it's a little bit light for an era release in terms of special feature. So there's an version of the credits that are in English, and then like some like brief like promotional bits. But other than that, nothing substantial beyond like the audio commentaries. But they're very informative, and it looks very nice. So baseline, it's a good release. So Shaolin Plot from Arrow Video. It's a pretty good release, especially if you're a fan of this and you've just been collecting anything and everything. This keeps it up and a good pace.
Nice. That sounds really awesome. I love that they keep cranking out those great titles, especially stuff that's probably a little bit more obscure, especially like in our region. So, as I hinted, this my next film also has Carol Baker in it in a very different role, but it's still really fantastic. That is William Wyler's The Big Country. Now, this one I know for sure is a re-release because I have had this probably in my wish list forever. Um, and this one does have reversible art. Um, so
Yeah, and I do know that this is the exact same disc as the 2018 release earlier because I was writing my review of this earlier this week and researched them.
Yeah. I love William Wyler, and this is actually the first time I had seen this particular film. And like I said, it's been one that I was definitely willing to like just blind buy because I like this director, this cast. I mean, holy crap! Like Gregory Peck, um, like Carol Baker, Burl Ives actually won an Oscar for this one. Charlton Heston, um, really, really fantastic. So I will say from the outset, this movie's almost 3 hours long. It is very epic, and do I think it needs to be 3 hours? I mean, almost 3 hours long? Maybe not. But I mean, I do love that Wyler really lets his characters breathe and you really get a nice sense of his character. Like Gregory Peck's character arc's really fascinating. I mean, right away, he is like the fish out of water. He's in this sort of podunk town, but he's like, they kind of make a point of like kind of making fun of his hat. His hat is very ridiculous, even though it's just like I guess it's more of a gentleman than what people are kind of used to, but it's very much a clashing of cultures. And I don't want to spoil too much, but I know Peck's character is certainly more passive. He doesn't want to really bring the fight to kind of a rival like family, sort of like Hatfields McCoy kind of situation. They're sort of dueling for this very valuable plot of land. There's like some really great action sequences. There's some like ambush thing going on that's really fascinating. And yeah, I love it. I love how it's shot. I love Carol Baker in this. She is just like, she doesn't have to do a lot to command a scene. And I love that. She has a very, and it's the same way with like Baby Doll. She is very sultry, but it's not like megaphone trying to really get that point across. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm rambling. But she's great in this. It's extremely well shot. I mean, the just the exteriors are just beautiful, these landscapes. And yeah, I cannot stress how great this movie is. Again, it I think it sags a little bit in the second act for me, but I really like it. I think Chuck Connors is amazing. I think he's so underrated as an actor. I like his movie roles. I like the TV stuff he's done. There is yeah, this disc is really great. We have a really nice documentary about William Wyler. If you're like somebody that's kind of new to his films, I think this is a really fantastic introduction. We have a commentary track, a slew of interviews. Larry Cohen talks about Chuck Connors, and that's really fun. Talk about a grindhouse movie legend that we lost a few years ago, and it was so cool to actually get to like talk to him about some of his amazing B films. But that's a really fun extra. This is a really stellar release, and I think if you maybe don't like westerns, I think that this, I would say, it tends to play up a little bit more of like a neo noir, almost like a proto sort of Sergio Leone kind of thing, which isn't too far off from this time period. That was in the mid 60s, and this was late 50s. So I can kind of see where they were trying to get away from maybe the more traditional westerns, and it's very much more character based than some more traditional ones. So I love it. I love this cast. I think this restoration is fantastic. Yes, it's very long, but yes, I think if you're willing to go on the journey, it's well worth it. Yeah, phenomenal release.
Yeah, I was able to watch that earlier this week, and I was actually talking to my mom, and who watches our series, and I was like, I believe I found one of my new favorite westerns. I really, really love this movie, and it is for all the reasons that you talked about. I do love that it subverts a lot of the normal western tropes about like masculinity and stuff, and how you don't have to necessarily kind of give in to kind of like, oh, I'm gonna take revenge and I'm going to like, but like, because everyone who's like out for revenge ends up basically digging their own grave. William Wyler just does such a really good job with this, and with all the character work, I really, really loved it. And one thing I would do want to note, even though this is a re-release of that 2018 release, if anyone has this movie from the original MGM release, which was from 2011, I believe, there is still a reason to upgrade from that one to this new disc, and not just because of the new slipcover, but also because the original MGM release had some weird stretching issues to the aspect ratio that got corrected whenever Kino put stuff out. They didn't know that they were going to have to correct it, and it cost them a lot more money than they expected it to. But once it was brought to their attention, they corrected that, and this is a much better release for that. So if you still have that original like 2011 MGM release, make sure you're watching it in like the correct like framing and all that stuff with this release. And it's just a really terrific release with special features and all that kind of, there's tons of special features. So highly recommend this disc if you don't own it yet. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
My next title, I really liked. It's my second one from Arrow Video. And this is the 70s film, I believe. Fear is the Key, which this is a really interesting one that I will try my best not to spoil, because there are some things that as they unfold, you're like, oh, okay, like it kind of like slowly reveals itself, and I really like that about it. So this, like my last release of Shaolin Plot, this has a good amount of bonus stuff going on with it. Here's the fold out poster. So on one side is the new Arrow commissioned art here with the car and everything. And on the other side is this, which should be the reversible cover art. So I might not completely take time to show that off, but that is what it should look like. And there's also this booklet here with essays and photo reproductions and all that stuff. And so here's the disc art, and there, that's the reversible cover art underneath. So yeah, as I mentioned, the way to explain this without spoiling anything is at the beginning of the movie, you see our main character who he is listening to a dispatch. You can tell he's someone who is in the middle of kind of a mission. And it's, what you can gather is that it's some kind of heist or extraction or something. And he hears it suddenly go very wrong. And in the course of this, you learn that he loses his family. And it jumps forward in time, and he ends up in kind of this small town where he seems kind of out of sorts, and he kind of has a confrontation with a bar owner, and he arrives on a Sunday when liquor is not sold, and he demands to be served, and he ends up getting himself arrested. And then before he can be sentenced, he like knocks out the guard, takes a hostage, drives off on like in a car, and it just leads to this really epic car chase. It's like 20 minutes long. It's fantastic. This is kind of like a I believe it's the same lead as the infamous car, or not infamous, but like the famous car film Vanishing Point. So this is kind of like a result of kind of that culture. And after the car chase eventually ends, it kind of kicks into the real plot, which I won't really, that's where I'll kind of end off. But it is kind of this tale of this guy who has experienced tragedy in the past, and he kind of sets off on a journey that he's on the wrong side of the law. But what is going on, what is actually happening, that's for you to watch the movie and find out, because it's really some interesting twists and turns. And I think it's a really, really cool movie that goes into some really interesting places, and there's some very thrilling moments. The finale is one that I was really intrigued by, because it's very tense and like big, but it's in it's executed in a very low key way that I found very, like, the contrasting between the stakes and how it's executed. When most movies try to go very big, they did that more earlier on with this huge car chase. They keep it more interior, and I think it's much more effective for that. So really, really like this movie. It's really thrilling and like good performances, and all the how this evolves on a narrative level. It's fantastic. I really appreciated that. This does come from a new HD restoration that looks very nice. I believe this was restored by Paramount, and they did a really nice job with it. I don't see like a lot of DNR or anything like that. That I did not notice any print damage or the black crush. None of that is there. I did not notice any nicks or scratches. It's been maintained pretty well. Soundtrack is good. I believe it's also a LPCM 1.0, and then a good number of special features as well. There's a commentary track, a 24-minute visual essay, another 17-minute appreciation piece for the composer, and a few interviews that range about 30 to 40 minutes long as well. So pretty well-rounded package. Fear is the Key. If you kind of like this era, like 60s, 70s thrillers, definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of like epic car chases. Like, this car gets into some shit. It's very thrilling. So much fun. Fear is the Key from Arrow Video. It's a really, really good release.
Thanks. Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely one it's not on my radar, but I love a good like car chase movie. I feel like we don't have enough of those. Yeah, I'm sold. So my next title is a really interesting one. I had a lot of fun with. That is Bridget Bardot and Please Not Now. Very provocative. And no reversible art. So yeah, this is a French sex comedy, and I love how weird and over the top it is. Basically, you have Bridget Bardot who plays Sophie. She's a model. She is really pissed at her boyfriend, and she wants to kill him. Yeah, it just gets very zany. It's zany, but I don't feel like it ever goes so far off the rails that I can't kind of like really get into it and enjoy it. It has a really nice balance. It is very provocative. I was actually kind of surprised, especially this being like early 60s, but this is a French film, so we could probably never do this at this time over here. But if you like Bridget Bardot, you will be happy. We see some skin. And yeah, I don't know. I just really loved it because it has a really nice balance. But again, it's very absurd, over the top. It never feels like it gets too like harsh, even given the subject matter. Like there's a playfulness about it that I think is how it maintains the tone that it did. You've reviewed this, right?
Yeah, it was like at the beginning of January.
Did
I
you
really
like?
liked it.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, it was definitely a little bit more spicier than I thought it was going to be. But then I was like, oh well, French cinema definitely was a little bit less prudish than we were. Yeah, it looks really well restored. I don't know if this is from a new 2K scan, but it is a little bit rough around the edges at times. But I think overall, like I was impressed by like the clarity and just how well defined and nice everything looked overall. It's black and white. It's not. It's of course it's not the most visually like sumptuous movie, but I think that it's well photographed. Obviously, like you can't go wrong with Bridget Bardot, so but yeah, it's a fun one. I talked about another one last week that was a Loaded Guns, which I thought was like could be a really maybe double feature. If you missed that one, I can include that link to that one as well. But yeah, this is a good one. It's really fun. I will look and see if this is on their VOD site as well. And yeah, because if you want to try before you buy, you're still supporting Kino. I'll look and see if that's on there. But it's worth a blind buy. It's really weird. It's pretty fun. Again, I think the tone could have been really wonky, but it walks a really fine line. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I also like how it injected some random surreal elements in like random spots, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this, but that was pretty like a unique aspect of it that I really appreciated. My next title, I'm heading into more modern day, and this one, I guess there's a tenuous connection between this title and what you just talked about. I'll explain. This is the latest spin-off from the Walking Dead universe. This is The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, season one, which you can kind of see here. It's a really nice steel book here. And this actually comes with, here's the card that kind of comes off the back. And it comes with some really interesting kind of postcard-esque things here. So I'll kind of show that, which you might can gather some things that I was talking about. Yeah, this is the first Walking Dead series to take place outside of America, and this is takes the core fan favorite character of Daryl Dixon, who we last saw at the end of the series of the original Mothership Walking Dead, and transplants him into France. And he just kind of wakes up, and you don't really know why he is in France. You're like, what the hell? What is Daryl? This like southern like kind of redneck turned like hero. What's he doing in France? And you kind of slowly learn about this. over the 6 episodes of this first season, which it was renewed for a second season. But I think it's a really cool journey for him as he quickly kind of gets taken in by these nuns, and he gets connected with the specific nun who is played by Clemence Posey, who people probably know best if they're a fan of Harry Potter. She played Fleur Delacour in the films, starting with Goblet of Fire. He gets hooked up with her, and there's this young kid who's kind of prophesized to have kind of almost like a chosen one-esque quality about him. So Daryl agrees to accompany him and this woman across France to try to deliver him to his location, and eventually find like a ship to go back to America. And that's kind of the bare bones plot of these 6 episodes, is their journey through France and this post-apocalyptic, like zombie infested, and there's this own like societal reshaping of like who is in power and like for what reasons maybe certain people don't want this young kid to make it to his destination. So there's like that kind of conflict as well. And what I really like about this is I love the character of Daryl. He's a fan favorite for a reason. He's like a quiet badass, but he also has a sensitive side. And whenever you see like his name as the title, like Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, you expect that he's taking on a leading role, but he's always been most effective as a secondary character who is kind of reacting to some of the choices of the main characters. And whenever he's kind of forced to be in that leadership role, it's not always the best creative decision. And despite this show having his name in the title, he kind of reverts back to that what works best, because the focus is a bit more on like this woman and this kid, and Daryl is reacting to their situations and trying to be protective of him while also like bonding with them and making it through this countryside. It's a really interesting dynamic that really elevates, like it really draws upon the strength of this character and doesn't make him an unnatural focal point of this series that might have otherwise hampered it. It feels like the creatives knew the best way to handle Daryl, even if they needed his title and the name to bring in audiences. They know he's better as kind of like a secondary character that responds to things. So it's not a perfect series. There, even at 6 episodes, there's some pacing issues here and there that I think could have been tightened up. But this is one of the more enjoyable Walking Dead related shows that I've seen in a while. They seem to be, with these spinoffs being like shorter runs and stuff, they seem to be getting more to the core of like what made the show so compelling at first, where like the last couple seasons of the Mothership were hit or miss. This is really a refreshing turn because, like I said, we've never been to Europe, and just like they shot on location for the majority of it, and it looks spectacular. There's so much production value that I wouldn't have expected of like them actually like filming in these like historical places and everything. It's really cool. So if you're a Walking Dead fan or a lapsed Walking Dead fan who is a big fan of Daryl, I think you can kind of like you can jump into this and enjoy it for what it is. Either way, I think it's worth a shot because I love Norman Reedus and he does a good job in this role. And this is a really good presentation. It's a new show, but like good crisp HD presentation. Audio is good. There are cast diaries, which are 3 or 4 minute post-show breakdowns for each episode. There's also a really nice 43-minute special that delves into the making of this series, which is, I think, is even more than the last season of the original show got. So I'm glad that they got a good amount of special features for this one. So if you're a fan, Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, season 1, it's a good pickup.
Nice. I feel like I am so out of the loop with Walking Dead. I've only really like read the comics. I haven't really watched the show, so maybe sometime I'll get into it. But my final title is, so I always try to save like my favorite for last or the best of last to like really like end on a positive note. Billy Wilder is like one of my favorite classic movie directors. Everything he made pretty much is classics. Maybe not so much his later years, but like I don't know, 40s, 50s, he was like a hit maker. And this is no exception. This is Witness for the Prosecution. And this is also a re release. Now, I believe this had a this didn't originally have a commentary track. I think if
Okay.
I'm remembering that correctly. So I know I have it on the shelf back there also somewhere.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, this does not have reversible art, as you can see. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. It is a courtroom drama, but it also has a really intriguing mystery. You have, and I'm going to be really careful about how I talk about this as well because I don't want to spoil it, but you do have that really interesting sort of like who's a reliable narrator, what fact are you really getting from whose perspective. Charles Lawton is great. He just chews up the scenery. He has this running bit going on about smoking cigars, and Elsa Lanchester is in this, and they were married. They play off each other extremely well. I fucking love how she handpicks him a lot, but then when he needs it, she's like in his fucking corner. Like it's the duo that you need and want in your life. Marlena Dietrich is amazing. I think this might be my favorite of her American films. Like she's really
Nice.
fantastic. Tyrone Power is really compelling in this as well. It's just if you like courtroom dramas, this is great. But if you like a good meaty kind of mystery, I can't really say a lot about the latter half, but yeah, I don't know. It's quirky. It does have some comedy in it, but I mean, tonally, it walks a really fine line. Like Wilder was really great at balancing some of the more humorous moments, like I said, with Lanchester's role being kind of henpecky and stuff, and the more weighty things like the murder and like this innocent guy being on trial. So I think that I'm being really cagey because I don't want to spoil it, but the ending is just, oh, the ending is so good. It's almost like a double twist. As soon as you're like jaws on the floor, then all I'll say is something else big happens and you're just fucking shell shocked. I love it. It's such a good movie. You've seen this, right? Like you've reviewed this, I think.
I have not seen it, so I'm glad you're not spoiling it for me. I have the old Blu-ray as well. I never got around to watching it. Now I'm definitely going to watch it because I have to, but I also really want to because I love Billy Wilder, and my wife and I like to watch all the Best Picture nominees, and I know this was nominated for Best Picture, so definitely looking for. And we love courtroom drama, so it checks all the boxes.
Nice.
And I was confirming you were right about the commentary track,
Okay.
and this is one of the ones where they did do a new encode. So where it was a single layer disc, there's now more room for it to breathe with the double layer disc. And they also added English subtitles for anyone who missed out on that originally. So new encode, slipcover, commentary track, subtitles. So if you need any of that or want any of those things, it's definitely a reason to upgrade it. So I'm very happy. I don't regret getting the previous Blu-ray release, but I'm glad that they released this one.
Yeah, and I
So
got so excited to talk. Yeah, sorry. I got so excited to talk about the movie. It does look really great. I was gonna say I haven't watched the old Blu-ray, but I could tell it definitely looked a little bit fresher, a little bit less like a little bit more defined, well defined and stuff. So I really like how it did give it, like you said, a new code. So yeah, awesome.
Yay. My final title is one I was very intrigued by because I've seen this storyline depicted on a couple of different mediums, but I was interested to see how this would go. This is the newest in the DC animation line, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1 on 4K. So we get another Steelbook release here. So removable J card here. Here's the front and the back. See all the worlds. And so with this 4K release, there's only the 4K disc. So be aware of that. You got to be 4K capable. So here's the interior here. Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit out of order than I normally do and talk about the special features first because it really helped I'm glad that the special features that are on here because it helped kind of refresh my memory on certain things. They have two featurettes on here. About one's like 8 minutes long, one's about 10 minutes long, and one talks about this storyline in general, and then the another talks about the feat of adaptation of what started out of what is known as the Tomorrowverse. That's began several years ago with Superman, Man of Tomorrow, and is going to culminate in this trilogy of movies. So this is part one of a three-part storyline, but I like how the creatives took you through like kind of how they left a lot of breadcrumbs and built a lot of story that culminated in this. So they weren't quite sure that they were doing this in Superman Man of Tomorrow, but a few films into that, which we've gotten like the mainline ones like Justice Society and Green Lantern Beware My Power, and a couple of different other ones that I think there's been like 7 or 8 films that have led up to this one. I like getting that refresher because it's been a while since I've watched a lot of these, and I did not have time to binge like 7 or 8 movies before getting into this. But seeing those clips and hearing them talk about what kind of some of the seeds that they planted in this that led to this helped jog my memory. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. Green Lantern was doing this, and like there was this twist, and blah 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 blah. So don't watch that unless you've watched some of the earlier movies where they kind of talk about some of the developments in those movies. But all of that leads to Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. And you kind of are just jump right into it with the Flash. And he is living his life with Iris, or not even that. He is in a point where he is on a version of Earth where he is meeting Iris. But then throughout the movie, he keeps kind of like jumping out of his body basically into different parallel Earths and getting to see different versions of himself. And he gets to like interact with some of them and like figure out like where he is, who he's interacting with. And this even ties in to like a lingering thread. I think there was a post-credit scene of Batman The Long Halloween Part 2, where you see the Flash and Green Arrow like at the Wayne Manor door on Halloween, and it's kind of left lingering. You got to get a payoff to that in this movie, which I think is really fun. And basically, it is a storyline of like there is a malevolent force that is kind of overseeing things, and all these different Earths are in crises, and he is like bouncing back and forth trying to save all realities when things are kind of going to hell. And in the course of that, you gather all of the superheroes, like big and small. Like, yeah, you got your Batmans and Supermans and Wonder Womans, but you also got like the smaller characters that you've met like in the Justice Society films, or like the different iterations of people that I think are really cool. And like Supergirl ends up like coming in a pivotal moment, and it was fun seeing her in a movie like last year. So it follows the Crisis on Infinite Earths plot line to a degree. They're doing some newer things with it because everyone has to have like a different take on it. But I really like what I'm seeing so far. This first entry is really good as both teasing the next part and being kind of a standalone thing itself, because you get a sense of resolution, but you still cannot wait until you get to the second part, which the other two parts are supposed to be released this year. So it's this big culmination of things that if you've been following the Tomorrowverse or these DC animated films, you're not going to want to miss this. And it's really just, it's all coming together for this one. So they did a really nice job with this. All the vocal cast is great. Matt Bomer is playing the Flash, and he sounds really great. And he has to do a couple different versions of the Flash, and you get to see some of his recording process and the special features of how he kind of modulates his voice, and that's very interesting. But it's really fun. It's one of the better DC animated properties I've watched in a while, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. And this 4K presentation looks fantastic. In HDR, DTS 5.1 looks great, sounds great, really bold, robust colors. Those two featurettes that I talked about. So yeah, if it intrigues you, check it out. It's really good. probably not the best decision to just jump right into it. You won't be completely lost, but you'll get so much more from it if you watch some of the prior movies, which I know we've been doing. Maybe not everyone in our audience has been doing, but there's a lot of good stuff that we've talked about over the past few years. So go catch up on at least a few of them and maybe dig into that because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you get to check that out. I have not seen it yet, but yeah, like I've been following it as well. So I'm glad that it's a really good next chapter, some good payoffs, and yeah, I'm overall I love the DC animated universe. I think it's so fun. I think it's also like a really good maybe like while you're waiting for like some other bigger DC stuff, gives you a little something to get into, like so yeah, that is our episode. And as always, please, we like to hear from you. So chime in the comments. Let us know what you thought about what we talked about. Which is better, Footloose or Kindergarten Cop? Let's pit them together, um, but yeah, in all sincerity, like let us know what you think of what we covered. Am I completely off base with like Footloose? Is it like a masterpiece? Let me know. Just be civil, please. 'Cause I didn't hate it, so don't come after me. And please, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. As you teased earlier, we do this weekly and have some really great stuff coming up. You don't want to miss out on some really great content. So make sure you stick with us. And as always, thank you for hanging out with us.